Alright guys, you getting ready to start your own mono black zombie deck? This is a tribal deck. I got the idea for you. Now you don't want to do it exactly the same way that I did it here with the deck that I have so eloquently named Zombie Carnage, but this is a good start because this deck has way too many zombies and not enough lands. But I'm sure we'll be able to work through that. So here, a nice box here. Opening this up. That's backwards. Adoy. Opening this up. Getting our cards out. First card we start off with here is Giza. Now that just shut by itself. Haunted, are we? Ghoul Caller Giza is probably you're going to be go-to zombie commander deck person. As she's able to literally bring zombies back, and she's cheap enough to summon. So there she is. Really cool. You can read it right there, so you can see her effects and everything like that. And nice creepy art of Giza herself. Giraffe, must you always whine? I agree to nothing, and I'll raise ghouls anytime I wish. Pretty cool. So that's the card we pretty much start with. I'm sure there's other commanders you can use, but Giza or Gissa is the most popular when it comes to tribal zombie decks. And if you hear my voice kind of rasping a little bit, it's because I have kind of a zombie undead throat, I guess. I'm getting sick, is what I'm saying. So there's the card it starts with, and then we have all the other cards. This is shut by itself. Now this card, or this deck, sorry, this is unscripted, but this deck is completely, most of them are just zombie creatures. So like we have crocodile zombies, demon zombies, so many zombies, but there are a couple creatures here, like here's a Soul Ring, even though it's a zombie deck, so why would you need a Soul Ring? But it's just for the aesthetic. It's the Soul Ring, if you don't know what this is, basically it counts as a mana rock. So there's the Soul Ring. We got a bunch of zombies here. Here's the Amit Eternal, which is a zombie crocodile demon. Pretty cool. It looks like it's part of the War of the Spark collection. It looks like it's part of Lily's army. Then we got like a bunch of lands. Like here's a swamp, just a generic swamp. We got Icon of Ancestry. It's an artifact. Pretty cool. Creatures you control get the chosen type a 1/1. So that's pretty cool. If you're wanting to have a deck that you can give counters to your creatures, and counters are always welcome. Diagraph Giant is up next with a awesome creature. He enters the battlefield with a 1/1 counter on it for every zombie that's in your graveyard, which is so awesome. Again, 1/1 counters are always welcome. Here's Open the Graves. Whenever a non-token creature you control dies, create a 2/2 black zombie creature token. It was a night like any other. It would soon become a night no one would forget. Nice artwork of the zombies coming out. Here's a pretty cool one. This is from the new set, I think. It's called Bone Splinters. As an additional cost to this, cast spell, sacrifice a creature, or destroy target. Steal may be more doable, but nothing channels it. The spite of insanity dead, like bones. Another swamp, another swamp, another swamp, another swamp. You're probably going to want more swamps, but there it is. Here's the Ghastly Gloom Hunter creature zombie bat. It has a kicker, which sometimes is not beneficial, but hey, I mean, it's a cheap creature you can get out in the early game. Pretty cool. Then we also have Cemetery Reaper, which again is another cheap creature you can get out early game, and this is the holographic version. I wouldn't recommend getting the holographic version just because the holographic ones are usually more expensive. But other zombie creatures you control get 1/1 counters. And then there's another one here that says exile target creature card from the graveyard to put a 2/2 zombie black creature token onto the battlefield. Every grave cradles a recruit. Pretty cool. Then we have our first non-zombie creature. However, we do have a card in this deck that can turn any non-zombie creatures into zombies. We have Death Gaze Cockatrice. It is flying and Death Touch, which is great, because it means that a player that's trying to attack you is actually risking their own life or their own creature's life, because they immediately get damaged if they end up attacking this. Now, granted, the creature can still die, but still. They'll probably try to get rid of this as fast as possible, because even though their creature will die, they'll be okay. We have Caged Zombie here. Pretty cool. Each opponent loses 2 life. Activate this ability only if a creature dies this turn. So this is actually both. It benefits you, but it also benefits the other player. Or actually, it's degrading to you, and then it's degrading to your opponent, because this card actually leeches life. And these cards are good, but then they're also bad depending on how you use them. So yeah, for a zombie deck, it's always good to have at least a couple of leeched cards, but not too many, because then you're going to fuck yourself over. We have Plague Belcher, which is another leeching card. It has a menace. When Plague Belcher enters the battlefield, put a 2 1/1 counters on it. Target creature you control. Whenever another zombie you control dies, each opponent loses 1 life. So yeah, it's another leeching thing, and it makes sense. He's a Plague Belcher. Another cheap one to summon here is Champion of the Perished. Whenever another zombie enters the battlefield under your control, put 1/1 counters on it on the Champion of the Perished. He rose from the grave for every Cobble Tanner and fool who'd been slaughtered in the parish. And they rose up and shambled after him. We have 9 Zombie, another cheap zombie card to summon early game. This is actually the classic zombie card, or at least it's not the classic zombie card, but it's the earliest zombie card I can remember. Sacrifice a creature, target player loses 1 life, and you gain 1 life. So this is pretty good. So it leeches health, but it benefits you for leeching health. So the only person that's losing health technically is your opponent. We have Shambling Goblin, another awesome zombie to put early game. Although I should mention you should have at least a little bit more stronger characters, because the cheaper monsters tend to die easily, especially if you have an opponent that's playing a legendary only deck, which is probably going to happen to you a lot. It happens to me a lot. But there's Shambling Goblin. When Shambling Goblin dies, target creature an opponent controls gets 1/1 until the end of turn. Pretty cool. We have Crawl from the Cellar as a sorcery here. Return target creature from your graveyard to your hand. Put a 1/1 counter on it. But there it is. And this is pretty cool, because like I said, your whole point of zombies is to leash life and to bring monsters back that have died. We got lots of other cards here. We got this card right here. We have Ultimate Price, destroy non-target monocolored creature. So yeah, pretty cool. And it's cheap. It only costs 2 mana to be summoned. Another early game monster here. We have Festering Mummy. If Festering Mummy dies, you may put a 1/1 counter on target creature. As its parched flesh withers away, its malignant hunger grows. We have another one here. This is Entomb. Search your library for a card and put that card into your graveyard, then shuffle your library. I'll return you once you've ripened up. Ghoulcaller Gissa. Here we arrive at another swamp. We have Ingaruk's Wake. Now, I've never been able to use this because, as you can see there, summoning cost is so expensive. It costs 7 just regular mana and then 2 black mana. This is insanely expensive, so I've never been able to use this, but I heard it's a good card to have in a monocolor zombie deck, so you can just take my word for it, or you can research it, I guess. Destroy all creatures you don't control. All planeswalkers you don't control. Pretty cool. So essentially it's a board wipe, by the sounds of it. Eaten alive, sorcery, and there's a depiction of a zombie-like creature there. As additional cost to this spell, sacrifice a creature, or pay 3 regular mana and a black mana. Exile target creature or planeswalkers. If you hear a groaning noise in the cellar, don't investigate, don't split up, just lock the door and barricade it. Now here's one of the more disturbing cards in this deck. This is horrifying. We have Appetite for Brains. Target opponent reveals his or her hand, and you choose a card from it with converted mana cost, 4 or greater, and exile that card. Horrifying. This is literally the most horrifying card art I've ever seen. And it speaks volumes about a zombie deck. And not to mention, it just looks like nightmare fuel. We have the Zombie Fish, Gurmag Angler. Now you could probably swap this out for any other card. This is a cheap card, virtually worth nothing. And it's a decent card. I mean, it's very expensive. It's an expensive summoner. But then it also doesn't do much when it's on the battlefield, so you could probably swap this out for anything else. We have another swamp. Another swamp. We have Ghoul Raiser. He's pretty cheap, only costs 3 mana to summon. When Ghoul Raiser enters the battlefield, return a zombie card at random from the graveyard to your hand. Come, bring your brothers. Tonight, you feast on living flesh. Here's a good card. It has Skulk. This creature cannot be blocked by creatures with greater power. It also has Death Touch. Any amount of damage this deals to a creature is enough to destroy it. They're in the walls. Can't you hear them? These are Rancid Rats, and again, a really good card if you can get it early game because they're cheap. And they also have basically Death Touch, so that's awesome. Now, I don't know why this is here, but this is Silver Bolt, and I guess it's good if you're going up against a werewolf deck. Silver Bolt is very successful against werewolves. That's really all I need to do, and it's really cheap, so it only costs 1 mana. So, there it is. We have Clattering Skeletons. Now, yes, there are skeletons in this deck. When Clattering Skeleton dies, venture into the dungeon. Enter the first room, or advance to the next room. Actually, no, this is a Dungeons and Dragons card. Nice. Pretty cool. The swamp. We got Manfail Twins. I gotta try to speed things up because I don't want this video to be too long. But there's that. We got a bunch of swamps. Here's a great card. However, this can fuck you over if you play it too early. So I would try to play this card closer to the end of the game. This is Rotting Regisaur because I have fucked myself over with this card. But if you manage to play it later into the game, you can actually benefit yourself from this. With Rotting Regisaur also leeching your life, but sending characters to the graveyard. You can also use him to bring stuff back. So yeah, this card basically steals your shit, and if you play it too early, you're going to be fucked. Swamp, 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 swamp. We have the Death Tyrant. So I don't really need to go through this all, but I just read a couple cards. We have Swamp. We have some awesome cards like Fleshbag Marauder, which again is great for early games. We got Skeletal Vampire, which could probably be swapped out for something else, but hey, it's just for my aesthetic. We got another Swamp. We got the Headless Rider, got this Horseman, pretty cool. We got Dread Return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Another Swamp. Stuffy Doll, which has Indestructible, which is great, means this thing cannot be killed. Fellstinger with Death Touch and Exploit, awesome. Writhing Necromass, Top Reaper, Call Conscript, Jack-O-Lantern, which is great because it's basically a mana rock and gives you more mana, which this deck lacks. Unbreathing Horde, Nim Deathmantle, which again was what I was talking about earlier. This comes in handy with other creatures like the skeletons or like the cockatrice I mentioned earlier. This actually turns things into zombies. We have the Black Cat, We have Carrion Feeder, we have Midnight Reaper, we have Sign and Blood, we have Gutter Skulk. We have so many different zombie cards and not enough. We have so many zombie cards, but again, not enough mana. So I'd recommend actually not doing what I did and stockpiling zombies, but instead try to get as much lands as possible before actually going into zombies, because that's pretty much what I did. Most of my money for this deck was spent on zombies, which I feel was a mistake. But this is a pretty good start, and there's a lot of good cards that I've picked. However, there is just a lot here that can be repurposed for something else. But that being said, this is basically my look down at my own personal deck. So, hey, if you're wanting to make a zombie deck, this is kind of how it works. But again, don't go overboard with the zombie creatures like I did. But that pretty much brings this video to an end. Hope you guys enjoyed my look at my own deck, the Zombie Carnage. And with that, I'll see you guys in the next video. Have a great night, and do take care.